The square was filled with noise. Drums pounded like thunder. Hundreds of voices shouted in anger, their chants rising higher and higher. The air was heavy, and the ground seemed to shake under the weight of the crowd. At the center of the square stood a wooden platform, dark and stained from old executions. On this platform, an alien girl was dragged forward by 2 guards. Chains cut into her wrists, and her thin legs trembled as she struggled to walk. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with fear. The people wanted blood. They wanted her quartered, torn apart in front of them. No one cared who she was or why she was there. To them, she was only a monster, an outsider, a danger that had to be destroyed. The executioners stepped forward. Their hands were strong, their faces cold. In the sunlight, their blades shone like silver, sharp and ready. One man raised the axe and tested its edge with his thumb. The crowd cheered louder, like hungry wolves waiting for the kill. The alien girl fell to her knees. She was too weak to fight back. Her breath came fast and shallow. She looked at the crowd, searching for one kind face, but all she saw were eyes full of hate. She whispered something in her own language, a soft prayer no one could understand. The guards pulled her up and tied her arms to the wooden post. The ropes bit into her skin and she winced but made no sound. The drum slowed, beating like a heartbeat, deep and final. The moment of death was close, and then silence. The execution leader raised his hand, ready to signal the end. The crowd leaned forward, waiting for the first strike. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the girl. Her fate was sealed, but then out of nowhere a voice cut through the air. "Stop!" The word was loud, strong, and clear. It silenced the drums and froze the executioner's hand. The crowd turned, confused. Who had spoken? From the edge of the square, a human man stepped forward. He was not tall, not dressed like a soldier, and carried no weapon. His clothes were dusty from travel, and his eyes burned with something rare, courage. The people laughed at him. Some spat on the ground. "Who is he?" they shouted. "Why does he interfere?" Others shouted louder. "Kill the alien! She deserves death." But the man did not stop. He walked across the square, slow but steady, pushing through the angry crowd. Some tried to block him, but he pushed past them with firm steps. His eyes never left the girl on the platform. The guards raised their weapons, ready to cut him down, but the man lifted his hand. His voice did not shake. "If you want blood," he said, "then take mine first." Gasps spread through the crowd. The alien girl raised her head, her eyes wide. For the first time, she saw something she thought did not exist: hope. The executioner lowered his axe slightly, unsure. The crowd muttered, restless, confused. Never before had anyone stood between a prisoner and death. The man climbed the steps to the platform. He stood tall, though his hands were empty. He placed himself in front of the alien girl, blocking the blades with his own body. His voice grew louder. "She is not your enemy. She is not your prey. If you strike her, you strike me," the people shouted in anger. Some called him a traitor. Others demanded both of them be killed. The noise rose again, but still the man did not move. The girl stared at him. She had never seen him before, yet in that moment, she felt his courage protect her like a shield. She whispered a single word in her language, perhaps his name, though he did not know it. The executioners hesitated. Their orders were clear, yet their hands shook. Was this human mad? Or was he something else? Something greater? The leader of the execution squad stepped forward. His voice was like steel. "Move aside, stranger, or die with her." But the man did not move. His eyes met the executioners without fear. The air grew heavier, and even the crowd felt the tension. Every heartbeat seemed louder than the drums. The alien girl closed her eyes, waiting for the strike. The moment stretched longer and longer, and then, with the whole crowd watching, the man spoke again. His voice was strong, unbroken. "If you want to kill her," he said, "then you must kill me first." The square went silent. The fate of both the alien girl and the human now hung in the balance. The square was frozen in silence. The human's words hung in the air like a sword above every head. "If you want to kill her, then you must kill me first." The crowd did not know how to react. Some laughed nervously, others shouted in anger, but many simply stood stunned. Never before had anyone spoken against an execution. Never before had anyone dared to challenge the will of the crowd. The executioner stepped forward again. His eyes narrowed as he studied the human who stood tall in front of the alien girl. "Move aside," he growled, his voice low and dangerous. "This is not your fight." But the human shook his head. "It is my fight. Because if you kill the innocent, then all of us are guilty." The alien girl, still tied to the wooden post, could hardly believe what she was seeing. Her heart pounded in her chest. She had thought her life would end here, her body broken, her name forgotten. Yet here was a stranger, a human she had never met, standing like a wall between her and death. The crowd began to roar again. Voices clashed like thunder. "Kill them both! He is a traitor! No, wait, listen to him!" For the first time, doubt had entered their hearts. The man's courage was like fire, and it burned through their anger. The guards lifted their weapons. The sharp steel glinted in the light as they prepared to strike. The human spread his arms wide, shielding the girl completely. His voice rang out, stronger than before. "You call her a monster because she is not like you. But what makes you different now? Is it justice you seek, or only blood?" The words cut deeper than any blade. The crowd grew restless, uneasy. Some lowered their eyes. A few even stepped back. But the leaders of the mob were not so easily moved. "She is guilty," one of them shouted. "She was caught on our land." "She must die!" The man turned, his gaze sweeping across the square. "Guilty of what?" he demanded. "Of being born different, of living? Tell me, what crime deserves this?" No one answered. Only silence stretched over the crowd. The alien girl's chains rattled as she shifted, her eyes locked on the human. She did not understand all his words, but she understood his meaning. For the first time since her capture, she felt something other than fear. She felt hope. The executioner clenched his fists. His orders were clear. He was to kill the girl no matter the cost, but something in the human's eyes made his hands tremble. It was not weakness, it was strength. A strength born from conviction. "Step aside," the executioner said again, his voice harder now. "I will not tell you again." The man did not move. "Strike me first," he said. The square held its breath. The crowd leaned forward, waiting to see if blood would spill. The executioner raised his blade high. For a moment the sun caught the steel and it flashed like fire. The alien girl gasped. The human did not flinch, then hesitation. The executioner's arm shook. He looked into the eyes of the human and found no fear there, only defiance. Only truth. His breath caught, and for the first time in years his hand would not obey. The crowd erupted again, shouting for action. Some screamed for blood, others cried for mercy. The square had become divided. The human took a step closer, his voice echoing through the chaos. "You think killing makes you strong, but true strength is in protecting the weak. Today you stand at a choice. Will you be beasts or will you be more?" The words struck deep. Even the guards exchanged uneasy glances. The crowd's shouting grew confused, half demanding death, half begging for life. The alien girl's eyes filled with tears. Her lips trembled as she whispered something in her own tongue, a word of gratitude, though she knew he could not understand. The man heard her voice and stood taller. He placed his hand against the wooden post, steady and calm. "She will not die today," he declared. A stone flew from the crowd, striking the platform near his feet. Anger boiled again. "Kill him!" someone screamed. "Kill them both!" The guards tightened their grip on their weapons. The executioner lowered his blade but pointed it at the human. "You risk your life for nothing," he said coldly. "Do you think you can save her from all of us?" The man's eyes did not waver. "I will save her from you. And if I fall, then let the world remember that at least one human stood against the darkness." For a moment the square was silent again. The human's words echoed like thunder in the still air. Even those who hated him felt the weight of his courage. The executioner lowered his weapon completely, uncertain. The leaders of the crowd shouted in fury, but the people were no longer united. Doubt had spread too far. The alien girl stared at the human's back, her heart beating wildly. In that instant she knew that her fate had changed. Whether she lived or died, she was no longer alone. And yet in the shadows at the edge of the square other eyes watched. Eyes that burned with hatred. Eyes that would not forgive this act of defiance. The human had won a moment, but the real battle was only beginning. The square had become a storm of voices. Half the crowd shouted for death. The other half shouted for mercy. The noise shook the air like thunder. The guards stood tense, their weapons raised, but their eyes full of doubt. The alien girl trembled against the wooden post, her wrists raw from the ropes. And in front of her stood the human, unmoving, his arms spread wide. His shadow stretched across the platform like a shield. He had no armor, no weapon, and no allies. Only his voice, only his courage. The execution leader's patience snapped. His blade swung upward with fury. Enough, he roared. If you protect her, you die with her. The man did not move. His voice cut through the chaos. Then strike me first, the crowd gasped. The guards froze. The blade hung in the air, ready to fall. The alien girl squeezed her eyes shut, waiting for blood. But in that moment, something changed. The human's gaze did not break. His eyes burned like fire, steady and calm, as if daring the executioner to test his resolve. And the executioner faltered. His grip on the blade shook. The weapon, meant for death, now felt heavy in his hands. The crowd's fury grew hotter. A stone flew and struck the man's shoulder. He did not cry out. Another hit his leg, and still he stood firm. The crowd's violence could not move him. Why? Someone shouted. Why protect her? She is not one of us. The man's reply was strong, though pain burned in his body. Because justice belongs to all, not only to those who look like us. If she falls, then tomorrow any of you may fall too. I will not let that day come. His words spread like sparks in dry grass. The crowd shifted uneasily. Some lowered their stones. Others clenched their fists tighter. The executioner growled. You speak like a fool. The crowd demands her death. I serve the will of the people. No, the man answered, his voice like steel. You serve the truth, and truth is not found in hate. The executioner's face twisted with rage. He lunged forward, his blade flashing down toward the human's chest. The alien girl screamed, but the strike never landed. The man stepped forward and caught the executioner's arm with both hands. The crowd gasped as steel stopped inches from his body. The human's strength was not in muscle, but in willpower. His grip shook, but he did not release. The two locked in a deadly struggle, the blade trembling between them. The guards rushed forward. The crowd roared louder. Chaos erupted on the platform. The alien girl pulled against her ropes, desperate to break free, desperate to help. Her wrists bled, but she did not care. She could not watch the one who had saved her be cut down. The human pushed the executioner back with a surge of strength. The man stumbled, shocked. The crowd fell silent for a heartbeat. No one had ever defied the executioner before and survived. The human's voice rang out again, breathless but fierce. If you kill us, then let the galaxy see what you have become. Slaves to hate, blind to mercy. But if you spare us, then let this be the day you proved humanity still has honor. The crowd wavered. They were torn in two, half screaming for blood, half whispering for mercy. The square was no longer united. The executioner's rage only grew. With a roar, he raised his blade again, ready to strike the human down once and for all. And then, suddenly, another voice rose from the crowd. Stop! It was an old man, his hair white, his face lined with age. He stepped forward from the masses, his voice carrying over the noise. Enough blood has been spilled. Enough death. This human is right. If we kill her, we kill what is left of our souls. The crowd fell into uneasy silence. Eyes shifted, whispers spread. The old man's words struck deep. The executioner snarled. Do not listen to him. She must die. But the doubt had already taken root. One by one, people lowered their stones. The crowd grew restless, divided, unsure. The alien girl's heart raced. Hope flickered inside her chest like a fragile flame. The human turned his head slightly, his voice softer but no less powerful. You see? Even now the truth cannot be silenced. The executioner's fury exploded. With a roar, he swung his blade not at the human, but at the ropes holding the alien girl. The rope snapped and she fell to the ground, free but shaken. The human moved quickly, pulling her to her feet, steadying her as she stumbled. The crowd gasped at the sudden act. The executioner shouted to the guards. Take them! Both of them! The guards rushed forward, their weapons drawn. The human grabbed the alien girl's hand and together they leapt from the platform into the crowd. The square erupted in chaos. Some tried to seize them, others cleared a path. Voices clashed, fists swung, panic spread. The human pushed forward, guiding the alien girl through the madness. The crowd was no longer a single beast, it was a storm breaking apart. The chase had begun, and in that moment the human knew. Saving her life would come at a terrible cost. The market square was chaos. People shouted, guards pushed through the crowd, and stones clattered on the wooden platform. The human held the alien girl's hand tightly as he pulled her down from the stage. Her legs trembled, weak from chains, but she ran because he ran. The crowd parted in confusion. Some wanted to grab them. Others stepped aside. Voices clashed like thunder, filling the air with rage and fear. There! Stop them! A guard shouted. The human guided the girl into a narrow street, weaving through overturned carts and frightened citizens. Boots pounded behind them, the sound of soldiers giving chase. The girl stumbled once, but the man caught her arm and pulled her up again. "Keep moving," he said, his breath sharp but steady. They turned a corner, and suddenly the noise of the square faded. The narrow alley was damp and quiet, the walls cracked with age. Shadows stretched long in the fading light. The alien girl leaned against the wall, gasping for air. Her wrists bled where the ropes had cut deep. Her eyes, large, shining, and filled with confusion, locked on the human. "Why?" she whispered in broken words, her voice trembling. "Why you save me?" The man looked at her, sweat streaking his face. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard. "Because someone had to. Because you did not deserve to die like that." Her lips trembled. She had lived her whole life among fear and betrayal. No one had ever stood for her. Now this stranger risked everything. The pounding of boots grew louder. The guards were closing in. The human straightened, pulling her away from the wall. "We can't stop here. They'll catch us." They ran again, deeper into the maze of alleys. The smell of smoke and iron filled the air. The city was turning hostile, every street a trap. The girl stumbled again, and this time the human caught her before she fell. She clutched his arm, her breath weak. "No more, I cannot." The man looked around quickly. Ahead, a broken doorway yawned open, the ruins of an old house half swallowed by weeds. He pulled her inside, lowering her to the floor. Dust filled the air as they entered. The noise of soldiers faded, though faint shouts echoed somewhere outside. For the first time since the square, silence wrapped around them. The alien girl sat on the cracked floor, her hands shaking. The human knelt beside her, checking the rope burns on her wrists. He tore a strip from his shirt and wrapped the wounds gently. She winced but did not pull away. Her voice was soft but heavy with fear. "They kill me. Because secret." The man looked at her sharply. "Secret?" She nodded, her eyes full of sorrow. I carry something. In me. Knowledge. They fear it," the human frowned. "What kind of knowledge?" Her eyes darted to the doorway, as if afraid the walls themselves were listening. Then she leaned closer and whispered, "Map, not of land, of stars, safe path. To worlds hidden, worlds free." The man's breath caught. He understood at once. If such knowledge existed, it could change everything. Free colonies, free people, beyond the reach of cruel rulers. "That's why they want you dead," he said slowly. "Not because you're dangerous, but because you could give hope." She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Hope? Forbidden?" The man sat back, his jaw tight. Saving her was no longer just an act of mercy. It was a choice that could shift the fate of countless lives. But it also meant his own life was truly forfeit. The city would never forgive him now. Footsteps echoed faintly outside. The guards were searching the ruins. The man leaned close, his voice steady. "We cannot stay here. If they find you, all is lost." The girl looked into his eyes. "You already risk all for me, why?" "You owe nothing." He held her gaze, his voice quiet but fierce. "Because if no one stands for what is right, then nothing will ever change. And I will not live in that kind of world." Her breath caught. For the first time, she believed his courage was real. Not madness, not pride, but truth. The footsteps drew nearer. The man pulled her up again. "Stay close," he whispered. They slipped through a back crack in the wall, crawling into another alley. The soldiers' torches flickered at the far end of the street, their voices sharp. The man gripped her hand tighter. "From this moment," he said, "your fate is mine too." The alien girl's heart pounded. She knew then that her destiny had changed forever. She was no longer a prisoner awaiting death. She was someone worth saving, someone whose secret could bring light to a dark galaxy. But as they vanished into the night, unseen eyes still followed them. A shadow in the crowd, a watcher in silence. Someone powerful had noticed the man's defiance. Someone who would not allow such defiance to live. The turning point had come. Their journey together had only just begun. The night had swallowed the city. Torches burned in the distance, and the sound of boots echoed through the streets like drums of war. Soldiers were everywhere, searching, hunting. The human and the alien girl moved quickly through the alleys. Their shadows stretched long against cracked walls. The alien girl's steps were uneven, her body still weak from chains and wounds. But the human kept her steady, guiding her with a firm hand. Every time she faltered, he pulled her forward. Every time she whispered that she could go no further, he whispered back, "You must." "We can't stop now." Behind them, shouts grew louder. They went this way. Torches flared as the guards spread out. The hunt was closing in. The human turned into a narrow passage, one so tight the walls scraped his shoulders. The girl squeezed through after him, her breathing sharp. Rats scattered ahead of them, vanishing into the dark. At the end of the passage, they burst into a wider street. But here the danger was worse. Dozens of soldiers patrolled, their armor clinking, their eyes scanning the night. The human froze, pulling the girl back into the shadows. "We can't go straight," he whispered. His eyes darted to the rooftops. The buildings here were close together, their roofs uneven but climbable. He crouched, lacing his fingers together. "Climb," he told her. She stared at him, shocked. "Climb? No. I fall." "You won't," he said firmly. "Trust me." For a moment she hesitated. No one had ever told her to trust before. But then she nodded. Slowly, shakily, she placed her foot in his hands, and with a grunt he lifted her upward. She gripped the edge of the roof, pulling herself with trembling arms. The human scrambled up behind her, his fingers finding cracks in the wall. They reached the rooftop just as soldiers turned into the alley below. Torches swept across the street, but the fugitives were already above, crawling across the roof tiles. The alien girl's chest heaved, her heart racing. She looked down at the torches below, fear tightening her throat. The human glanced at her and whispered, "Don't look down." "Look at me," she did. His eyes were steady, and somehow the fear lessened. Together they crossed the rooftops, moving like shadows against the stars. From up here the city looked endless, a maze of stone and fire. The sound of the angry crowd still carried through the streets, but farther now, more distant. The human paused on the roof of an old temple. He crouched low, listening. The shouts of soldiers were spreading, not fading. "They've blocked the main gates," he muttered. "We can't leave the city by road." The alien girl pulled her torn cloak tighter. "Then we trapped." The human shook his head. "No, there's another way." He pointed toward the far end of the city where the walls rose high against the night. Beyond those walls, mountains loomed like giants. If we can reach the outer wall, there are tunnels beneath it. Old escape routes forgotten by most. They lead into the wildlands. The girl's eyes widened. "You know this?" He nodded. "I've walked these streets before. I know the old ways, but reaching the wall would not be easy." The soldiers were tightening their net, closing every street, every path. The city itself seemed to turn against them. They climbed down from the temple into another alley. This time the human led them through a broken courtyard, where the stones were cracked and vines crawled over ruined arches. The air smelled of dust and mold, but as they moved, a whistle cut through the night. Soldiers. From both sides, armored men rushed in, torches blazing. The alley lit up with fire and the escape was blocked. The alien girl froze, her body trembling. The human stepped in front of her, his fists clenched. He had no weapon, but his eyes burned with defiance. One soldier sneered. "There he is. The traitor and the beast." Another raised his spear. "End it here." The human spoke, his voice calm but firm. "You call her a beast, but it is you who hunt like animals. If you kill her, you kill the truth she carries. Do you really want that blood on your hands?" The soldiers hesitated. The words struck them, but orders were orders. The spears came closer. The alien girl's breath caught. She whispered in her broken voice, "They kill us now." The human's mind raced. He could not fight them all, but he could outthink them. He glanced at the torches, at the dry vines along the walls. An idea sparked. "Stay behind me," he whispered. He grabbed one of the torches from a startled soldier, spinning fast and thrusting it into the vines. Flames erupted, racing up the wall in an instant. The fire roared, spreading across the courtyard. Smoke billowed thick and black. The soldiers shouted in panic, stumbling back. Some tried to stamp out the flames, others coughed in the smoke. "Now," the human shouted. He pulled the alien girl through the confusion, weaving between soldiers blinded by smoke. They broke through the line and ran, the fire lighting their path. They did not stop until the torches behind them were distant. The girl clung to his arm, her eyes wide with fear and awe. "You fire! You save again." The man breathed hard, his chest burning. "I'll keep saving you," he said, "until we reach freedom." But deep inside he knew this was only the beginning. The city would not rest. The rulers would not forgive. And the path to the outer wall would be the most dangerous journey of all. The night was quiet now, but it was not peace. It was the silence of hunted prey. The human and the alien girl moved through the broken ruins near the edge of the city. Old walls leaned like tired giants, stones cracked and covered in moss. The fire from the courtyard still burned behind them, painting the sky with orange smoke. It gave them cover but also marked them as fugitives. The city would not forget this night. The alien girl stumbled, her strength almost gone. The human caught her before she fell, lowering her onto a flat stone. Her breath came in short gasps, her face pale in the moonlight. "You need rest," he whispered. She shook her head weakly. "No rest, soldiers come." "They won't find us yet," he said firmly. But inside, he knew it was only a matter of time. The girl looked at him with wide, trembling eyes. "Why? Why do you fight for me? You could leave. Save yourself." The man crouched beside her, his voice low and steady. "Because your life matters. More than they understand. More than even you believe." Her lips quivered. Slowly she touched the rope burns on her wrists. "I told you. I hold secret, but you do not know cost." He leaned closer. "Tell me." She closed her eyes, gathering strength. Then she spoke, her words halting but heavy. "Long ago my people found a path. Not of land, not of water. A path between stars. Hidden currents. Safe roads through dark space. We called it the Silent Way." The human's eyes narrowed. He understood at once. Such knowledge could change everything. Armies moved through space by known routes, dangerous, slow, watched by empires. But a hidden path, a secret road? It would give freedom to the oppressed. It would give power to those who had none. "That's why they fear you," he whispered. She nodded. Tears filled her eyes. "Yes, if I live, others can be free. But if I die, path dies with me." The human stared at her, the weight of her words pressing on his chest. Saving her was not just about one life. It was about thousands, millions waiting for a chance at freedom. He clenched his fists. "Then I will not let you die." But she shook her head sadly. "Do you know cost? If you stay with me, you cannot go back. Your life, your home, all lost. You will be hunted. Forever." The man was silent for a long moment. The night wind whispered through the ruins. Finally he spoke. "Then so be it. Some things are worth more than a life lived in safety." The girl's eyes widened. No one had ever spoken such words to her. She felt something strange in her chest, a warmth she did not understand. Before she could answer, a noise broke the silence. The clink of armor, voices, low but near. Soldiers. The human pulled her close, pressing her into the shadows of the wall. Torches flickered in the distance. The searchers were near. The girl's body shook. She clutched his arm tightly. "If they take me, kill me first," she whispered. "Do not let them have me." The human's jaw tightened. His heart burned at her words. "No," he said firmly. "I will never let them take you. Not alive, not dead." The soldiers' voices drew closer, boots crunching on broken stone. The human's mind raced. Fighting was not an option, not against so many. They needed another way. He scanned the ruins. At the far end, half hidden by vines, was a hole in the wall, small but big enough to crawl through. Beyond it lay darkness. "This way," he whispered. He guided the girl through the gap, scraping his arms against stone. The soldiers' torches swept across the ruins just as they disappeared into the black. On the other side, the air was colder. They were outside the main city now, near the old fields where wild grass grew tall. The mountains loomed in the distance, sharp against the stars. The girl leaned against him, her legs barely holding. "How far?" she asked. "Far," he admitted. "But beyond those mountains there are tunnels. If we reach them, we can escape." She lowered her head. "I slow you. You cannot carry me forever." The man looked at her, his face lit by the pale moon. "Then I'll carry the cost. Whatever it takes." For a long moment she stared at him, her lips trembling. Then she whispered, "You are different." "Not like them." He gave a faint smile. "Maybe that's what makes me human." But inside he knew the truth. The cost of this choice was already falling on him. His name, his life, his future, gone. And the deeper they went into this path, the higher the price would rise. Behind them, the torches of the soldiers moved like fireflies through the night, spreading wider and wider. The hunt had not ended, and above, unseen in the black sky, other watchers stirred. Shadows greater than soldiers, powers greater than empires. They had heard of the girl's defiance and of the human who had dared to save her. The real price was yet to come. The mountains rose like black teeth against the night sky. Sharp peaks cut into the stars, and the cold wind howled between the cliffs. The human and the alien girl struggled across the rocky ground, every step heavy, every breath burning. Behind them, The glow of torches still chased across the plains. The hunt had not ended. The girl stumbled again. Her body was weak, her feet raw. The human caught her before she fell, pulling her against his shoulder. "We're close," he whispered, though he was not sure. His own legs shook with exhaustion, but he refused to stop. Ahead, hidden among the rocks, was the mouth of a tunnel, an ancient passage, dark and silent. He led her inside, and the night swallowed them. The walls were damp, carved long ago by hands forgotten. The air was colder, heavier, but it was safety for now. The girl sank against the stone, trembling. "I slow you too much," she whispered. "You should leave me." The human knelt before her, his eyes fierce. "I will never leave you. If I carry you to the end of the stars, then so be it." Tears welled in her eyes. No one had ever spoken such words to her. For the first time, she believed her life had meaning. But the sound of pursuit returned, boots and voices echoing in the tunnel. The soldiers had found their trail. Torches flickered at the far end, growing closer. The human stood, his body tense. He knew he could not outrun them now. The tunnel was too narrow, the girl too weak. This was the end of the chase. He turned to her. "Stay behind me. Whatever happens, stay hidden." She shook her head desperately. "They will kill you." He gave her a small, tired smile. "Then let them try." The soldiers poured into the tunnel, their armor clinking, their voices sharp. The leader raised his torch high, his eyes burning with fury. "There he is, the traitor. And the alien witch." The human stepped forward, arms spread wide. He had no weapon, only his will. His voice rang out strong and clear. "If you want her, you go through me." The soldiers surged forward. Blades flashed, torches blazed. The tunnel became a storm of shadows and fire. The human fought with everything he had. He grabbed a soldier's arm, twisting hard, slamming him into the wall. Another came with a blade, and the human kicked him backward into the darkness. But there were too many. Blows struck his body, cutting, bruising, tearing. Blood ran down his arm. Still, he did not fall. The alien girl watched, her heart breaking. Every strike against him was a strike against her soul. She wanted to scream, to run to him, but he had told her to stay hidden. One soldier raised his sword high, ready to strike the human down. The girl could not stay still. With the last of her strength, she rushed forward, throwing herself between the blade and the man who had saved her. The soldier hesitated, shocked. In that pause, the human grabbed the man's wrist and wrenched the blade away. He struck the soldier down, panting, bleeding, but still alive. The tunnel grew silent. The soldiers who still stood backed away slowly, fear in their eyes. They had seen something greater than strength. They had seen defiance that could not be broken. The leader spat on the ground. "This is not the end," he growled. Then he turned, dragging his wounded men with him. Their torches vanished into the darkness, leaving only silence. The human collapsed to his knees, his chest heaving, his body broken. The alien girl caught him, holding him close. Tears fell onto his face as she whispered, "You saved me, again and again. Why? Why give so much?" His eyes, heavy with pain, looked into hers. "Because you're worth it. Because hope is worth it." She pressed her hand to his chest, feeling the weak but steady beat of his heart. Her own people had once spoken of a bond that could cross stars, a bond born not from blood but from courage. Now she understood. "You are my reward," she whispered. "Not gold, not power, your courage, your heart." The man smiled faintly, though his strength was nearly gone. "Then it was worth the price." Outside, the mountain stood silent. The torches of the soldiers faded into the distance. For the first time, the night was free of pursuit. The alien girl leaned close, whispering words of her people, words of healing and hope. Her hand glowed faintly with a light the human had never seen. It spread into his wounds, easing the pain. He stared in wonder, realizing she carried more than secrets. She carried gifts unknown to men. The tunnel became still, and for the first time they were safe. The silent way lay ahead, a path through the stars hidden and waiting. Together they would walk it. Together they would bring hope to those who had none. And though the cost had been great, the reward was greater. The human had saved one life. But in truth, he had saved countless others yet to come.